show. I posted about this today that I've been so grateful to be able to talk to so many people over the last 6 weeks that are out there with true hospitality, feeding people, basic feeding people, and it means a lot. So today to have Gretchen TeBockhorst and Taylor Shields from Prim Communications, who also started Feeding Colorado Heroes. Thank you to both of you for being on.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
So Gretchen, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit about Prim Communications as the owner of Prim Communications, and then kind of give us the pivot and why it was important for Prim to be able to support and start Feeding Colorado Heroes.
So we're a public relations and marketing agency based in Denver, Colorado. The majority of our clients are restaurants. So when they were asked to shut their dining rooms down, we saw firsthand how this was impacting people. And a lot of our clients have become our friends. And, you know, it was heartbreaking to see what they were trying to work through in this current situation. We got together as a team to try to figure out not only how we could help our restaurant friends, but how we could also just help the medical community in general. Taylor was actually the catalyst to this planning process, to be honest. And I'll let her kind of take it to talk about where she came from and why she thought we should help.
Yeah, that was perfect. Like co-host, I don't need to do anything. You girls got it. All right, Taylor, you're up.
Go make yourself a sandwich, Jensen. Yeah, so I worked in restaurants in Las Vegas for 8 years. And when the shooting there happened at the music festival, I had just moved back to Colorado and felt really helpless and really devastated. And so I was able to help deliver food from Colorado, coordinate delivering food from local restaurants in Las Vegas to the front lines in the shooting area. In that area, the people we were delivering food to were medical examiners, police officers, fire. It was just a different kind of front lines. Wow. And it was not a situation where restaurants were being closed. It was a situation where they were there to help. I love the culinary industry. Everybody's so generous. So in the team that Gretchen was talking about, I just said, like, hey, our team is really good at making things simple and we like to be busy and help. This is something that we had done before. And then 24 hours later, Gretchen called and was like, hey, I've got an idea.
No.
We moved quickly.
Yeah, we did move quickly. Yeah, after we had our meeting that day, I went to sleep that night and I was trying to figure out how can we help the restaurants and the medical teams, because we were already seeing what was happening in New York. And we knew that it was a short period of time before that came to us. I ended up chatting with a friend of mine who's a nurse at one of the local hospitals, and she said that the cafeterias were already becoming increasingly limited every day. They were removing things like salad bars, buffet, anything that was shared where people had to, use the same spoon or fork to spoon, that kind of thing. And so they were limited to things like vending machines. Everything was packaged. So it was really hard to get fresh food, really hard to get hot food. And so I just thought, how can we get these people hot food and get the general public to honestly pay for it and then support our restaurants? And it was actually my husband who wants to take credit for this entire idea, who said, GoFundMe, like just do a GoFundMe page. And then what is that? It was as simple as that. We started a GoFundMe page the very next day after I ran this whole thing by Taylor, and we started an Instagram page and a Facebook page. And of course, we're in the world of media relations. So Taylor wrote up a nice press release and we sent it out to a lot of our friends in the media, and people started talking about it, jumping on, and donations just started to pile in. And there we are.
Look what happens when you just figure out a way to get shit done. I just absolutely love that it is the default setting for everybody in the hospitality industry. And then for you, because you're so inspired by that energy, you see that hustle and that grind out of your clients. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they run through walls again and again and again. And you keep telling them, why do you keep running through the same wall? Let us help you with messaging and branding and marketing and all that. But the hustle is never ending. So I appreciate that. And so then, Taylor, you had kind of the feet on the street mentality. You had done this before, kind of in a different venue. So then talk us through connecting the dots between now that you have this mechanism for money to get the restaurants and then the clinicians, the frontline workers connected in this through this channel.
Yeah, I think so. We started with an idea, and then, like I said before, as a PR person, our job is to make lives easier for both chefs and media people. And we just took that same thing and said, let's make lives easier for media people. The flyby is happening on my house right now. The media people, let's make life easier for the restaurant owners and the hospitals. So we did a super easy for them, a little bit complicated for us, Google sheet where restaurants could come in and say, hey, we want to feed hospitals. And then we kind of were like salespeople and just called 1-800 number, not 1-800, but like information numbers, emailed PR people at hospitals and said, hey, yeah, we have local restaurants that we want to donate money. We want to donate these meals to. They're prepared in professional kitchens. It's delicious food. It's not a turkey sandwich. It's pasta, it's roasted chicken, it's Mexican, it's Indian, it's all these really fun things. So I think Gretchen and I would agree that the hardest part was actually getting in with the hospitals. But once we got in with them, they were just so appreciative. And it's just as boring as it sounds, it's just an SOP of this is how you communicate with restaurants, this is how you communicate with hospitals, and making their lives easy like we do for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, meaningful and organized can go together. Like, I think that's an important part.
Yeah, it was funny. One of the first people that I talked to said, oh my gosh, you guys have made this so easy. We've been declining invitations to drop off food because it's more hassle than it's worth. But we can drop off 100, 200 meals at one time from professional kitchens at the time that you want. And as sweet as people who are asking to drop off homemade lasagnas and those pieces and pizzas are, hospitals can't take that, unfortunately. And we've just made a way that makes it a little bit easier for them.
And
yeah, I really appreciate that.
Are learning too. So they've had to create entirely new positions for people or, add to their current scope of work because so many people want to donate meals. So in the beginning, it was this huge shuffle. I mean, we were working with nurses in some departments who were just tasked with also organizing these meal deliveries on top of everything else that they were doing. And now I think each of the hospitals we're working with are understanding how this system works, and they're fine tuning their own systems in addition to us fine tuning ours. And so now it's much easier. We're all getting the hang of it.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I mean, your job, your mission is to empower your clients to do what they do well and not worry about the rest of it, to really make it streamlined and focus that creativity and that message and that brand. So it makes a lot of sense that you're able to do it in a completely different medium than you ever expected to have to do. But it doesn't surprise me at all, just knowing the way that you interact with your clients and with the community. So then I want to talk a little bit about, now you're kind of at flow state, whatever that means in this time, because nothing is normal, nothing is understood, yet you're hitting rhythms. And I saw, this week alone, 1,000 meals are going to go out. That's unbelievable. Let's dig into the numbers a little bit of how many restaurants have been involved. Please name drop those restaurants. What are the hospitals involved, and kind of how the machine works at this point a little bit.
So like I said, we're fine tuning our systems too. And I think we were both a little overzealous in the beginning, and anyone who reached out to schedule a delivery, whether it be a hospital or a restaurant, we just said, yes, please, let's do it all. And then last week we ended up doing 26 deliveries in 1 week. And that was a lot. And that was too much. was too much for us. And now we understand that was too much for us. So we have had to dial it back a bit. One being that we want to make sure we have enough money, of course, if there's the second surge, right? So now that things are opening up again, the hospitals are already expecting that things are going to increase again in terms of patient counts. So we want to be ready for that. We've done, in terms of numbers, we have served, I wrote it down here, so that's why I'm looking at this, 5,602 meals to date. Restaurants.
I like that you're not rounding either. It's 5,602.
We're accountable, Jensen. We're accountable.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah.
We've served 24 medical facilities. Some of these are multiple spots that one spot that we've hit multiple times. And then I'll let Taylor. Do you have the numbers in front of you too? Talk about the restaurants.
Well, I think we should also first shout out the donors, right? None of this would be possible without the donors. And I think one of the reasons we've been able to be successful is that quick turnaround. We put up initially a $25,000 goal. We were able to do our first delivery within 3 days of putting up the GoFundMe. And then we are now up to Gretchen went away.
Keep going. She'll jump back in.
We're now up to over $60,000, which is just stunning. Like, we put up $25,000 and legitimately thought, oh, is that too ambitious? Are we going to get there? What's going on? It's now over 60,000. And what we talked before we went live about how you have to look a little bit harder for things to celebrate. And there's a lot of conversations I'm sitting in on emails I'm getting that aren't happy. And when I'll go over to our GoFundMe site and I press refresh and you see that number climb and it's like the little piece that you need in a day. And you see a donation for $2,500 from an anonymous donor. We don't know who it is. Mm-hmm. And then you see a donation of $5. And both of those literally make me cry. There's a story about both of them. And I just think of, every dollar counts, they say, but you think of whether it was a kid, whomever, had $5 that they could spare and they wanted to feed a hospital worker and they wanted to do that with a local restaurant and they entrusted us to be able to do that. It just, I can't say enough about all the support we've gotten from the community. It's amazing. Welcome back, Rick.
It means so much to have anybody, and the person that gave $5, that might be their last $5. Like, I really feel like that. I've heard those stories again and again. Is like, they're thinking about, buying $10 worth of food. They say, I'm going to get $5 worth of food for myself and give $5 to this organization who's out there feeding people. And that means a lot. It really, really does. So I appreciate how much that clearly means to you in that time. And so, donors. And not only that, let's actually go practical for a moment. Where do donors go in this moment? Because we need more of them. To your point, Dave, for sure, who knows the magnitude of it, the impact of it, yet there will be constant need for this over the foreseeable future. So I'm a donor, I have $5 or $2,500, where do I go?
So the URL is actually kind of funny. It's gofundme.com/f/feeding-colorado-heroes. So we do encourage people to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Both are at Feeding Colorado Heroes, and you can find our GoFundMe page there. But you can also follow along. So it's fun to see, just follow us on Facebook and Instagram anyway, because you're able to see all the photos of happy hospital workers, of the restaurant teams making these massive meals. In some cases, they're able to bring in additional employees that, they've had to let go in the past just to bring in these massive meals. And so they're able to pay an additional person or to help with the delivery. And we're sharing all of those things on our social media pages. So I also think it's nice for the donors to be able to see just where their money is going. It's putting a lot of trust in us when you're making a donation to Feeding Colorado Heroes. And we want to make sure we're very clear that this money, 100% of it is going to these meals. We're not taking a dime. And you get to see that by following along on our social media pages.
And Jensen, you had talked about restaurants. We didn't get to talk about that because I got all weedy.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll get back to it. One thing with this that I'm very interested in is the word transparency has come up a lot. The expectation in this moment for people to have trust and confidence in you all, and then the mechanism that you've created is really important. Transparency is also going to be mission critical for restaurants coming out of this. Have you learned what that word really means in this moment as far as people's expectation of that communication of transparency, what's happening with their effort, their money, their time?
We have, there have been a variety of cases where we haven't received a large donation because we're not a 501c3, which I completely understand. Our donations are not public. The expenses we're making are not public. I have thought about posting some of the receipts on our Facebook and Instagram pages and to show that as transparency. But I also don't know that our restaurant partners want to show what each other restaurant is charging. Some of them are giving us deals because of where the meals are going. Some of them, some of them are adding gratuities, some of them are not. And I don't want to make anybody feel badly. And I also don't want just to make anybody embarrassed. And so we haven't shown the receipts publicly, but what I have done is I've sent receipts to people. So if somebody makes a large donation and they want to know exactly where their money went, then I send them a receipt and say, you fed the entire night shift at Rose Medical Center. And that was you, and here's the receipt for that. And so that's how we're kind of helping with that transparency component.
Yeah, I appreciate the thoughtfulness. Go ahead, Ted, please.
I was just going to say, I also think as a PR person, our product is our own reputation. And without your reputation, media doesn't trust you, clients don't trust you. And I think that the fact that so many donors, restaurants do trust us and do trust Prim specifically, I think just says what reputation that Prim has in the community.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, that's what brand is, right? It's reputation. That's what you have. And so, and that's your currency, which I think is important for sure. And powerful and meaningful in this moment. You're able to deploy it in a very different way and have the same impact in a completely different medium. So again, I appreciate that. The pivot, as we call it, whatever that means. All right. Restaurants. Let's get back to restaurants. Our people, our unsung hospitality heroes, the crazy band of rebels, the island of misfit toys, the pirates on the pirate ship, and we love them. And we're totally batshit crazy. Yeah. We're smart. We'd be in a completely different industry, yet we're so wholehearted in our attempt to be of service. So restaurants. Let's talk about restaurants. Who are some of the restaurants? How many restaurants? Give us an idea of the scope and some of the humans behind this important work.
Do you want to go, Taylor? You want to talk about our friends?
Sure. We've worked with so many different restaurants. We've worked with little independent coffee shops. The French Press is one that donated or that helped us donate 100 breakfasts. A lot of hospitals aren't getting breakfast. They're doing lunch and dinner. We've done work with Restaurant Olivia. We've done work with Steuben's Uptown, and they took some amazing photos and helped us get on 9 News and those kind of pieces. They've been great partners. We also, this is another make us cry moment. We had a delivery scheduled last night for UC Highlands Ranch, UC Health Highlands Ranch, and I emailed the restaurant and with just the details and the follow-up, and they said, hey, don't worry about payment. We're gonna donate this whole feed. And that was for Via Bacci and Lone Tree, who also represents Rialto downtown. So we've just, again, like Gretchen said, some restaurants are in the place to do that, some aren't. But the fact that I said, no, part of this is to feed your guys' pockets also and get days of revenue. And they said, no, put the money back in the coffer and be able to feed another 100 people. It just means so much. And we've worked with over 30 local restaurants.
Wow, amazing.
46, according to my sheet that I have right here. Yeah. Yeah, 46. And I'm going to give a few others some shout outs, and I'm not going to read out 46 restaurants, but
we can. I would absolutely allocate the rest of this show to just read those restaurants. But if you do want to read a few, and then we will follow up, and I will make sure we tag, link, whatever it is to get them all the acknowledgement that they need, because that's literally the only thing this show is about, acknowledging others. Yeah. So, yeah.
Olivia Taylor mentioned Encore Catering. Catering companies are obviously hurting quite a bit now too. Reavers, Urban Village, Chook Chicken, Wood Grain Bagels actually donated 200 bagels for UC Anschutz for their delivery. Chop Shop, Rye Society, 5280 Burger Bar, Bird Call, Savory Cuisines, Pizza Republica, Brighter, Green Seed, who teamed up with a lot of the other vendors at Denver Central Market to create this really amazing breakfast that for Rose Medical. And Rose even just wrote me a private note aside, said, this is the most amazing breakfast we've ever received. They did like fresh pressed juices and breakfast burritos and yogurt parfaits, and it was just amazing. I could go on and on. High Tide Pokey, Smoke, Lee James Hot Chicken, Beckin. I'll stop. But yes.
You're gonna email me those. I tried to write some down. I was like, I gave up. I can't write that fast.
I know.
We will get the list. We want to get them all acknowledged because that work that they're doing is so important. This just occurred to me. We've maybe potentially thrown a big monkey wrench into the cafeteria system for hospitals because their expectations now have been raised. The level of food quality, just from the names that you're listing off, is exponentially more than I'm sure what's happening in the cafeterias pre-COVID at a lot of those hospitals. So
maybe there's a hospital cafeteria food concept in your future, Jensen.
People are going to need to. I think schools and hospitals are two of the most important pillars in our community, and the fact that too often they do not eat well is not okay. So that's a whole other, that might be a whole other brand of podcast.
Jamie Oliver's doing it.
Yeah.
Jamie Oliver of Colorado, or just the Rocky Mountain region, just take over. I like that.
Whoever is that, I'll make sure and amplify their message. That's my new role, is hustle and for sure. So we talked about this just before, and I want to touch on this. There's in Denver so many organizations that are working within this medium. There's multiple groups that are doing this work. I've seen also tons of Facebook groups in Denver specifically that are popping up around this. And so I'm talking to people all over the country that are in different Facebook groups or doing different work. Some of them, like the Lee Initiative, has 19 cities where they just say, restaurant, here's the model, and you can be our ambassador in the city. Denver, we've seen a lot more of a multitude of different organizations, entities, collaboratives coming together. So touch on that a little bit, why it was important for you all to have your own resource, and then maybe how you've pooled your resources a little bit as well.
I think in the beginning, because we didn't know that was an option. We thought our idea was completely unique, and we were the only ones who were brilliant enough to come up with a GoFundMe page to, crowdsource funding for feeding our heroes. And so in the beginning, that was it. But we have since connected with especially one. We've become close with Lunches for Clinicians, and we've been pulling resources. Yeah, they're also doing an awesome job for any restaurants or any medical teams who would like to team up with them. And so we've been sharing restaurant contacts and hospital contacts, things that are working well for us, things that are not working not so well, and just helping to give each other guidance through this whole process. And GoFundMe, I think, was also new to both of us, and I think just learning that whole process and how that works in terms of even just getting the money out to be able to use it for these meals, that was a process in itself. So we've been working with them quite a bit, and they're an awesome team too. If you're able to support both, that's another great one.
Yeah, and they did a great job. Let's see, we had Dustin Segura and Ethan Griesman from them on. Scott Sales set it all up. Don King, Megan, who you've worked with. They have a great team there. Very dynamic. None of them had done anything like this before, which was super inspiring. And no restaurant experience either. They just connected the dots. And now last I checked in with them, they were in like 9 different cities as well. love how organized you can get around it. And if you empower people to just cook and deliver hospitality, they'll do it. They can do it. A lot of times to get it out there is where restaurants struggle. So I appreciate that as well. So when you're reflecting now on how many weeks has it been since you launched?
March 4, 5.
It feels like 1,000 weeks it's been since you launched.
Just considering how many deliveries we have done, it seems a lot longer, but
March 24th, say my notes, Gretchen.
Yeah. So, I mean, a little over a month.
That was our first delivery, March 24th.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, reflecting back on it, I know the answer to this, but was it the right choice for you to do this with all the work, the challenges, the losing focus with a client here or there, anything like that? Was it worth it? Was it the right decision to make?
Oh, yes, it was definitely the right decision to make. This has been a dark time for us, not nearly as dark as it has been for our friends in the restaurant industry. But, you know, I've lost 75% of our business because the majority of our clients are restaurants. And so during a very dark time, this project has brought a lot of light. It's brought a lot of happiness. It's brought some purpose to our team. You know, we're still actively pitching clients, and we're working for our clients day to day, and they do take the priority. They always take the priority, but sometimes it's unhappy things that we're working through right now, and this project just brings us happiness every time we get to contact one of these restaurants to say, we want to order 200 of something. They're like, what? Awesome. Just tell us to be. And that's a good feeling. Same thing with the hospitals. We had a couple people reach out just for Nurses Week. And just knowing that during such a special week for such important people who are risking their lives right now, that means a lot. So it is a lot of work. It's really hard. It's much harder than I thought it was going to be. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. So Taylor, senior accounts, right? You're really focused on a lot of backslapping and hand holding and that with restaurants. We know restaurants.
If you only knew.
Help you. I know the interactions. I know them. So when you're interacting with restaurants that are clients or talking to new restaurants through this mechanism, the conversations that you get to have or have to have about what's happening in this moment, if it's getting to feed people with the 200 meals, which is amazing, or the challenge from a PR perspective in this time, maybe touch on what those conversations look like, feel like for you right now.
Yeah, I love the restaurant world. I think there's a lot of people in the restaurant world who their first priority is hospitality. And so they, much like PR people, they're smiling and everything's good and how can we help and all of those things. And then this has given an opportunity to have some really real conversations with clients, friends, everyone about, you know, things aren't okay. You can't fake it. So like, let's be real. We're friends. Let's be real about what's going on with your business, with your family, with your life, with all those kind of things. And I think the opportunity to be able to give them a good day of revenue, but also give them face-to-face with the healthcare worker and those people's thanks. When you're feeling, at least for me, when I'm feeling badly, the first thing that I want to do is give to someone else. It's a distraction. It gets you back to what you're doing is cooking. I mean, as a chef, you know, like if you can't cook, you guys start to go stir crazy. So giving those kind of pieces, I think that it's really deepened relationships. And part of, I think, why we're successful is we don't think of ourselves as PR people who happen to do restaurant. Like I'm part of the restaurant team. I just happen to talk about what you do and I can't do mise en place. So I think that has made it even more impactful for what we do.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about because PR a lot of times is very polished, right? It's about presenting this clear, concise, sexy image, this brand, this story. And in this time, it's just not that. And so I think it's an opportunity for you all to reflect on the way that you present these messages because real is more important right now than than pretty, right? And so I think that that's an important distinction in this time to think about. And your point, man, idle hands in the restaurant industry is bad news. You know, like having that face-to-face interaction being fueled by it, I think is a really important thing to know in this time, that the mental health of the hospitality industry is at an all-time low because of this. And so putting one more person back to work because you gave $5, like that matters. It really matters. And I also think, you know, thinking about 75% of your clients are gone. I know as somebody who's a strategist and consultant in the hospitality industry, 4 months of work gone in like a 2-day span. And so I'm just like, I'm just going to talk to people because I don't know what else to do. This is for me right now. So thank you to But when they talk about 15.6 million people in the hospitality industry, 25% potentially of the unemployment claims across the country coming from this industry, PPP only supporting 9% of that money going to restaurants. Don't even get into how much of that went to independent restaurants versus the math is very much against us. But then I think of the two of you and your team and so many other teams. You're not counted in the numbers of the unemployed for the restaurant industry, yet you are literally part of the backbone of the restaurant industry. And so I think it's an important thing for us to think about right now. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I know how much it means. I know how much easier it'd be to just go biz dev and find 10 more clients right now, but you're doing 1,000 meals this week. So I'm grateful. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up? This is a great conversation.
I would just say thank you. I know there are a lot of restaurant people who watch this show, and we feel for you, and we thank you for what you're doing and what you're trying to work through. We also thank our medical community and what they're trying to work through. This is an awful time for a lot of people, and I just sincerely hope it gets better for everyone. So thanks for continuing to feed us, continuing to feed our heroes, and trying to work through the current situation. We know it's hard.
Jensen, is this the only interview you've had where your subjects have cried during the interview?
I think so. I think so.
There we go.
Now we've set the bar very, very high. It's emotional for everybody. You know, I can definitely tell people on the show that I interact with regularly that are putting on a tough face, you know, when they're doing this or when we interact in another way, because this is crazy. I mean, it's completely crazy. And you need to do two things. One, you need to be real with yourself in this moment and say, this sucks. I wake up plenty of mornings, go, I don't want to do this. Yeah. Then I go, all right, let me look at my calendar. Who's on today? Gretchen and Taylor. I'm fucking pumped. I'm so in it. I'm excited. And I might get done with this show and it might only last for 20 more minutes. And then I go, oh man, now I got to do homeschool with my kid. I don't know anything about phonograms. Like, I don't know what we're doing here. And I feel so inadequate. Like, I'm just going to go cook something. So it's a roller coaster every day for sure. So I appreciate how real this conversation was. It wasn't gussied up. Besides the two of you got a little bit gussied up, but it wasn't like
any excuse.
Yeah, I know. I had to clean off my makeup brush. I'm like, it's like covered in dust.
I've been wearing this hat for 5 straight weeks. The first 2 weeks of the show, I was doing my hair and like getting into it. I'm just wearing this hat because it's become like my signature. People are like, wait, you can't not wear the hat. I wore a hat forward and like 6 people reached out to me like, the backwards hat is your thing. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm into it. If that's my brand now, I'll own it for now. So thank you to both of you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to talk more. There's a lot more work coming out of this because when you get back into heavy duty PR mode, there's going to be a massive need for that transparency, and communication is everything. And it's going to become even more mission critical for restaurants. So you're going to have your work cut out for you. I know. Make sure. I got to get those 46 restaurants, and I will tag every single
I will. I'll send you a list right after this. Yep.
They matter. All right. Thanks to both of you. I appreciate it. Keep delivering meals. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Jensen.
All right. Yes. Feeding Colorado heroes. What I love about that is we call them Unsung Hospitality Heroes for a reason. on both sides of the equation. They're feeding Colorado heroes, as in frontline workers, and they're being fed by Colorado heroes, which are the hospitality industry professionals. So really grateful for the work that they're doing, for that conversation, for how real it is for them in this moment. Tomorrow, Friday, what's the date? May something, May 8th, maybe? 2 shows, 2 very different shows, first times for these 2 things at noon Mountain Time. I'm going to have on Juan Padro, who is part of Culinary Creative. They have a slew of restaurants from the Tap and Burger Concepts, Ashkara, Senor Bear, Bardot, Mr. Osa, the list goes on. They are absolutely crushing it in the Denver scene, as well as Paul Riley, chef, owner of Beast and Bottle and Coperta. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a couple topics that the fellas are actually going to banter about a little bit, in where they may have slightly differing points of view or expectations or plans. And we're going to dig into that a little bit, because we've had some meaningful dialogue, some disagreements, and at the end of it, a lot of respect. And I want to bring that level of banter to the forefront, because we need it. We absolutely need to be able to figure things out through our ability to collaborate and also at moments disagree. So noon Mountain Time, those 2 will be on. Check that out. And then at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, Ace Linnea Spidell, who is a chef, a father, a husband, an amazing cook. I got the opportunity and pleasure to work with him at Tag Restaurant years ago. Ace is deaf, and he taught me so much about communication. And every episode you hear me talk about communication. I hustle and communicate. That's all I know how to do. He leveled me up like I could not believe, because his ability to have a high expectation of communication and being challenged in another way of communication was profound for me personally. And he reads lips really well. And the way that I enunciate, people sometimes joke about, wow, you really use your hands and your mouth a lot when you talk. One of the reasons that I do is because of Ace and the way that he held me to a higher standard of, you got to look me in the eye and you got to communicate, no mumbling or slurring your words. So I do that. I really would appreciate people listening in on that, and we are going to have a great conversation. So tune in tomorrow for 2 groundbreaking shows, new frontiers for us. Thanks as always. Cheers.